All right. So, of course, Beth, I want to thank you so much for coming to the stream tonight. We've been hyping you up every time we get a raid of people, every time we've had anybody on chat. We've had your links all over, and I know anybody who watches back is going to be oh so excited to finally meet the person we've been talking about for so long. Again, Beth has been our community spotlight of the month of February and will continue to do so until launch day. And I believe, let's look at it here. So the 29th is a Saturday.
It is.
I will be streaming that night. I think we will do a little hype launch party for you the 29th.
That sounds like fun.
Fantastic. Of course, again, bperrywrites.com, and you can also find her twitter.com/bperry_write. So, let's just go ahead and dive into it. We're a few minutes early, but that's not a bad thing, right?
Sure.
We'll just dive right into it. So we're going to be talking Reclamation tonight. So we have a post-apocalyptic sci-fi book, which is a fantastic genre that I personally don't get to dive into much, but I can't wait. After stream tonight, I'm going to go order my physical copy so I can have it because I need it.
Awesome.
But you gave me a little synopsis. I'm going to go ahead and I will post it in chat as long as I get the command correct, because we all know that I am what a scrub. All right. So, as posted in chat, it's 25 years after the zombie apocalypse, and the cure for the virus is helping put society back together. Adelaide's dad, Jack, is framed for a crime he didn't commit, and to rescue him, Addie must face her fear of everything but zombies. It's the first part of a trilogy, and is a little bit horror, a little bit romance, and a lot of adventure. So, if that doesn't...
Right.
Exactly. If that doesn't get you interested in the book, then I don't know what is, but you should go pre-order anyways, because that's what we're doing here. We are supporting everybody. So, let's go ahead and we'll dive into some of the questions. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Perfect. So, we're going to, tonight, just so everybody knows, we're going to talk writing, we're going to talk reclamation, and we're going to get a little bit into personal interest. Now, the main hook for me there is the fact that there's a cure. That's a dynamic in zombie apox that isn't played out enough. Very nice. That was from a friend of mine, Mathris, in the chat. So good. Look at that. We've already got a hook.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I think the cure was one of the first things that came to mind.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about that a little bit too, just ourselves.
Yeah.
So I am myself a little bit of a writer. I haven't finished what I'm working on, but Beth is a friend of mine who has been in a writing chat of mine for 6+ months now at this point, right?
Yeah, at least.
It honestly feels like
it's been longer. It's like I've known you guys forever.
Exactly. Ash is part of the chat as well, who is in our chat right now. Jay, the one who has made all the wonderful stream graphics you see everywhere and the logos, is also part of that chat. And it's so great to have that kind of cohesive group of friends. I think so, Ash. I'm not 100% sure if it's been 6 months. But it's so nice to have that cohesive group of friends. And I mean, as writers, the process feels super lonely, but at the same time, having friends like this makes it not so lonely because we get each other. So I wanted to talk about the writing process, thoughts on writing. I wanted to talk the book, of course, because that's the main reason we're here. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit of personal interest, because you don't always get to understand that in the writing. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to make sure that I asked you some questions that people just don't get asked. So let's go ahead and we'll kick off, because we are now at 7:15. So again, everybody, before we dive into it, we do have Bethany A Perry here. We are talking about Reclamation. The link for pre-ordering the book is going to be in the chat every 10-ish minutes or so. If you want the link, just do !B Perry and it will show up for you, and you'll be able to get her information. You can also find her on Twitter. So let's talk writing first.
Okay.
What are common traps for aspiring writers?
Well, me personally, not making enough time is the number one trap that I fell into. I didn't treat it seriously enough. What I learned from writing the first book that I finished was that I had to really sit down and write at least 5 days a week, whether I felt like it or not. So I always have that writing space.
Exactly. It is so hard to just set the time aside, especially now that I've gotten into Twitch streaming. I haven't touched my book in a while, and even if I jot down a little note, I count it as doing something towards it. Because if you don't, you just entirely feel like a failure, and that's not the point of that process.
Yeah. And it's something else I didn't put this in my answers, but something else is I just like open it every day, and maybe I only move a few commas around or add a sentence or two, but at least like remember that world and remember those characters so I don't forget them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I talk about it at work more than I probably should. Um,
Same.
and everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I know you're a writer because you don't shut up about it. I'm like, you're right. That's
Right.
exactly how we work. You ask me, oh, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on writing. And you just give me that inch and I'm going to run you for a mile on what's going on,
Yep.
right? Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I open up my notebook and, like, I look it over because I'm handwriting what I need to fix. And, like, just doing little bits, I'm like, oh, I love Nathaniel. I hate him, but I love him at the same time. And it reminds me of that stuff. So, talking about writing, of course, how did the people you've met along this journey, specifically other authors, help you in your writing?
There's so many ways. Like my writer friends, like you guys are totally the best. You guys let me brainstorm, whine, get through plot holes, like chit chat about my characters. I had a friend I would gossip about my characters like they were real, talk about them like real people, and that really made them real for me. Um, Also, I got a lot of good tips from people about writing processes, pitfalls, ways to improve, and stuff like that.
That is so great, and I am super honored to be one of the best in that little group, of course. And seeing your journey has been amazing. Ash just sent you hands and a heart full of rainbow, by the way. Um, but just being able to witness your process almost makes it even that more valid that it is a process that anyone can get through. Not to say anyone can, but for those who are aspiring or trying to get it done or go through that journey, it makes it look real, and you're like, oh, okay, this is totally attainable. All the people who are like, oh, you're gonna write,
Right.
they're done, like,
And
gone.
that's one reason I like to be so open about it, and I like on Facebook, I share with my friends and family whether they like it or not about the whole journey, because it doesn't just, come into existence with a magic wand. It really is
Exactly.
a process.
And it's not like you put it down on paper, hand it over to a publishing company, and you're like, all right, cool, I have millions. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
And you self-published this book, which I don't think we get into, actually. We do a little bit anyways, a little later, but you are self-publishing this book, right?
Right.
Fantastic.
Right.
Um,
The traditional publishing market is wonderful, and I still aspire to get an agent in the future. But they are a little tired of zombies. But I know that there's so many readers out there that are like me, and we love zombies, and we still want them. So I know that there's an audience for it.
yeah, of course. And that's the thing, like, you can't give up on your dream because one avenue doesn't work. There are so many forks in a single road to get where you want.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, in your artistic process, what's the most difficult part?
Plotting. I I hate plotting so much. I do it like as little as possible. I have to do some if I really want to get anywhere. Like I kind of need to know where I'm going. But sometimes that's just the next plot point. I hate plotting.
So you're more of a pantser, a plot, not a plotter. Are you like a plantser or more of just a pantser?
Yeah, I would say more like a planter.
Okay.
Because like I said, a little bit of plotting has to happen. I usually know like the next two plot points and maybe the ending,
Gotcha.
kind of.
And for those of you who are not aware of writing processes in general, so of course a plotter is someone who, like, you ever seen a murder board where they're trying to figure out how everything connects? They pretty much like write everything possible down, like start to finish. And then they have all the dots connected, all the little lines, like everything is all set together. And hats off to those people because I can't. And then there are pantsers who, as it sounds like, go by the literal seat of their pants. And you will find that there's a little bit of a discourse, you'll agree, in the writing community between the two.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
everyone's like, you need to know where it goes. And then the other side of it is, no, if your characters don't direct the story, that's not a real story. But
Well, not only
then,
that, sometimes I feel like if I know all the details, I lose my interest.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
interested anymore if I already know what's going to happen.
Like, we've had talks where when I was going through my writing, I was like, oh my god, they just revealed something else to me, and everyone's like, same, I hate that, and then you gotta change what you thought was gonna happen, and it's just a mess. But in the grand
Yeah,
scheme, it keeps it interesting. But then in the
it does.
middle of all of those two options, we have Planters. A little bit of plotting, a little bit of seat of your pants, or a lot of bit of one and a little bit of another. So there are all types of writers. Like in the chat, Ash, me, I'm a murder board. Great. So you can do plotting. Absolute hats off to you. I would take my hat off to you if it wasn't back there. I can't do it. I gotta let my characters do their thing, and then I have a generalized direction, which is my plotting. So, being a planter, I'm right there with you, Beth. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I let the characters fully take control of book 3, and it's my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we mentioned, it's already up on the screen, of course, but as you can see up there, we have Reclamation, so it's the series. So we have 3 books in total, is that correct?
Right now, yeah.
Of course, because they may tell you there's more, right?
Yeah, they want me to write more. But right now it's a complete whole trilogy. It's got a beginning and an ending.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so if you had to do something differently as a child or teenager to become a better writer as the adult you are now, what would you do?
It's a hard question to answer, but I think that the biggest thing would just be to show my writing to more people. In 5th grade, a couple people were writing story. We used a writing prompt, and then somebody else accused me of stealing their idea. So I didn't really show my writing to anyone for years after that.
Ooh.
So I would definitely just want to show it to more people.
Perfect. Let's see here. And so versus doing something differently to kind of change where you are now, if you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
And that ties into my last answer, because showing your writing to people really helps you grow as a writer. So if I could tell myself anything, it would be to not be afraid to show it to other people, because you can't get better without feedback, and you don't have to be alone. It doesn't have to be solitary. You can invite your friends into the process.
Perfect. And as our little group knows, we are all in each other's process. It's crazy.
Right, exactly.
But it's really some of the best fun I think I've had as a writer. I don't know if you feel the same.
I do, absolutely. Making writing friends was like one of the best decisions ever.
Exactly. I got into so I started in the writing community hashtag, and Ash just said respect to you both for planting with a heart. And that's the thing, like, if you have respect for each other's process, it's great. Just don't argue about shit. It's dumb. Like, leave it at home.
Yeah, well, there's no reason other people do. It's an art, and we all have our own way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. There is no single person who's the exact same, even if you are a twin. Like, you're gonna still have different experiences and thoughts and etc. And, like, when it really comes down to it, everyone's gonna do something different as well. Just respect the process. Respect it. Oh, God, what? Did I just Capri Sun?
Respect the pouch! Respect it!
Oh, leave it to me to turn it into a shit show. Okay, so... Alright, so let's finish up just the writing in general. What would you say is a unique writing quirk of yours?
I had to think about this for a while, but I have a mild form of synesthesia, which I didn't realize until about 6 years ago. And that means that I do things like visualize time. Sometimes words have a taste. Sometimes people or colors. Stuff like that. Just like weird little visualization things that happen in my so I try to communicate that in my writing sometimes, and use those visualizations to help me describe something, like in a way that readers might not have experienced before.
Interesting.
Make it come to life in a new way. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people attribute almost those senses, tastes, colors, etc., to almost a deja vu type of feeling, because it takes you back somewhere. So is yours more in the moment, they just attribute themselves to those words having a taste or being able to visualize time, or does it kind of take you back to a moment that lets you experience it better?
Yeah, it does both.
Okay.
So if I see a color that reminds me of someone, because they are that color, then, it makes me think of them and memories with them. There was something I was going to say, and I totally forgot what it was.
That's okay. If it comes back to you, we can roll back to it at any time.
As far as the visualizing time, that happens immediately. So when I think about this weekend, there are little blocks, and I can see them as little blocks, and they have different colors and everything. And if the blocks are if the edges are fuzzy, or if I don't know what block to put where, I just feel completely discombobulated until I can figure it out.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. So it's probably like the missing plotter part of your brain that has moved itself into that synesthesia.
So, yeah.
Plotting a book, can't do it. Visualizing time frames, if you're fuzzy, I'm confused.
Right.
Yeah, it works out totally. All right. So let's talk Reclamation, which is why we are here, what we are about, celebrating for the entire month, because I don't know if you know it, but you are exactly 2 weeks away, not to cause any nerves or anything, but you are exactly 2 weeks away from your release.
I'm so excited. And we bought a house, so we're moving too. So,
You have a lot going on all at once.
I know.
So you're moving your entire family into a brand new home, which is gorgeous. I've seen the photos. I can attest to how pretty it is.
Thank you.
You have been working on writing and going through the editing process. You had beta readers, I assume, which I know we'll probably talk about at some point.
Joe, actually, that you mentioned, Joe is one of my betas.
Oh, fantastic. We have a beta in our
wonderful.
presence. Hello. Betas are so critical. I'm sure we'll get to that. But anyways, so you've got all of that going on. You're working on self-publishing a book, which is difficult as all get out.
Yeah.
And now you're releasing a book in 2 weeks.
Yes.
That's a lot, and I am so impressed with how you're able to just get all of that done.
I really don't know.
You have so much of a wherewithal that just, I don't. One day.
One day.
Yeah. I will someday be that kind of adult. Today? Mm-mm.
I didn't feel like an adult until about 3 years ago, so, we've got some time.
Joe says he can't wait, by the way.
Good.
You put a lot of work into it, sir.
It's so good. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you better not be able to wait, because, I'm sure you put a lot of work into it, too, so. When your betas are hyped for you, that's huge.
Yes. Yeah, and they have been so wonderful and so supportive.
That's great. It takes a village, right?
It does.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, of course, talking Reclamation. What kind of research did you do for this book?
Well, I watched a lot of zombie movies. Really hard research.
Crucial.
A lot of The Walking Dead, at least the first few seasons.
Kind of tapers off after the first few, right?
Well, yeah, I have some issues. I wrote a whole blog about my issues, but anyway, I don't go out in public and complain about it. I
just blog about it.
People that still like it, Yeah, exactly. So, but I also I've always loved abandoned places and stuff. So I started really studying those kind of pictures to try to envision what Addie's world is like. I researched viruses and how they work, scientific papers, pop culture, taking kind of what we have in the media and mixing it with science. Watched a lot of videos about how to properly use weapons that my characters were using. If I didn't already have experience with that weapon.
Oh.
I didn't want them to look stupid.
No, of course. So when it comes down to it, it turns into that atypical writer trope, I'm sure, but don't look at our Google history because it's going to be terrifying.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you behead someone with a machete?
That's never a good thing you want to find on anyone's, especially if you're in a really deep committed relationship. You just got in a fight and now you're snooping and then you find machete videos. So I have to ask, which we didn't necessarily prep for, but which weapons in the book did you not have to do research for because you had experience?
Oh, see, I thought you might ask that. I know how to shoot several different types of rifles and handguns.
Oh,
I've had a lot of experience with shooting, so I didn't have to do any research on shooting.
nice. Anything else?
Yeah. Uh, Not really. I'm not really familiar with bladed weapons, which they use a lot because obviously they're quieter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Really, I think they'd be more effective as long as you know what you're doing with them.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a lot of experience with bladed weapons. But yeah, I was on the rifle team in high school.
Oh,
So yeah.
that comes in handy, oddly enough, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Joe mentioned about a minute ago, I love these characters, which is awesome. So,
You.
I wish I had known that you needed help with sword work stuff. I actually own, oh god, how many? 5 or 6 myself?
Yeah. Well, my fiance does too.
Oh,
Um, so, so if I had any real questions, and you know, he's always been into uh, swords.
nice.
Oh God, I lost the word.
That's okay.
Katanas.
Yeah.
So when we're watching, like, you know, we're watching anything, say The Walking Dead,
Mm-hmm.
where she's using the katana one-handed, he's just like,
Use another hand, sister. It's not gonna work
Yeah.
that way.
it's,
Or
it's too heavy, and you know.
exactly. Or my favorite thing that I've ever seen on shows is when they pull a sword out of its casing and it does that shink sound,
Shing.
and you're like,
Yeah.
no. I'm like sitting there and I'm like pulling mine out of its casing.
Yeah.
Which on this channel could mean 17 different things. But anyways, I'm sitting here and I'm like pulling it out of the casing. I'm like, it doesn't make the sound. It doesn't make the sound. Then you put it back in and it doesn't have that like sound.
Yep.
And it's like, no, stop it. Don't. I get that it's for the drama, but no, it's so
Yeah.
bad. It hurts my soul.
Right.
Oh,
So,
oops, excuse me.
He has a couple, and so, you know, research is more than just like watching videos. Research. I've asked him a billion questions about swords.
You just gotta set him up out in the woods and be like, all right, here, use this. Let me watch.
Right.
It's not weird. It's research.
It is.
Your search history is infinitely more weird than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. Talk about how long it takes to bleed out and how how long it would take for a body to decompose.
Which in most normal spaces, you'd be like, okay, so I'm gonna ignore her texts and we're not hanging
Yeah.
out at Starbucks the next time. But
Right.
And then for me, I'm like, so when are we having coffee? Where are we going? What deep wooded place do we want to hang out in? Like, I don't care. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my writer friends, I would hang out in a graveyard with and not even be afraid. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If none of us
Wouldn't
leave,
die.
none of us are gonna get found. It's a thing. All right. So, what did you end up editing out of Reclamation?
There was a lot of stuff in the beginning, a lot of setup. Like I had a really great scene where Addie's trying to figure out an electric coffee pot because she's just moving out on her own for the first time. She's 23 and she doesn't really know how to use all these electric things because when she was growing up, they just made cowboy coffee, which is where you just put a coffee pot on the fire and it percolates the coffee.
Oh, okay.
So when she was young, that's what they did, and then her dad made the coffee when they got the cure and they moved into the village and everything. So this is her first time on her own, and I had a lot of little moments where she was trying to figure out, you know, being her own adult, you know, instead of having an adult. There's also some character intro that got edited out because it was really dragging down the beginning of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of streamlined some of that, and also internal dialogue because I really just needed it to be. It was really, really long when it started.
It makes total sense too. For those of you who are
Yeah.
wondering what the hell was going on with my face, my light was being odd and then fell over, so I had to fix it.
Did you say your leg?
No, my light. My ring light
Your
that I
light.
use. Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
It does. Yeah. No, I had to go pick up my leg. Sorry, guys. If we do a writing group retreat, we need it to be graveyard adjacent. It could be in the backyard,
Yeah.
Ash. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
We'll just meet up in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of in the middle of the U.S., and we'll just call it
An
a trip.
overgrown, abandoned graveyard.
Oh my god. Or if we can just find... we actually drove by an abandoned mall today, and I thought of you. And I was like, I don't know if this is normal, but she'd probably appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I love abandoned malls. I love them.
Let's just go camping in the abandoned mall.
Yes.
But I do find that when it comes to like setup, a lot of people have a problem with overdoing it in the books.
Yeah.
So how did you decide what was too much and what was enough?
It's a really hard decision to make. And I never know if I've really gotten it right. But there's it's more of an ensemble. It's 2 points of view, but it's more of an ensemble book. So I had to decide really who was most important that we get a real introduction to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who's going to be more important? What am I trying to get out of this introduction? You know, and kind of go from there.
Makes perfect sense, especially like when you're writing a world that doesn't exist, you have to make it up as you go. And you want someone to be as immersed in it as you have it in your head. So when you're not as when like the other person isn't as immersed in it, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Are they going to understand what this crumbling building looks like, or do I need 4 paragraphs?
Right.
So that can be.
And there's like 8 or 9 characters that are important that you see in the beginning, and I mean you can't introduce all of them individually.
Right.
You know, because people are just like, oh my God, are we ever going to stop meeting characters and start reading the story, or you know?
Yeah, exactly. It gets super, super tricky. Joe said you got it right. So it sounds like you got just the right amount of let's learn about it, and also the right amount of let's leave that out, which is great.
Yeah, good. Yay.
All right. So one of my favorite questions that I found along going to ask you, of course, I love character names. I love understanding where people come up with them. So how did you select the names of your characters?
Usually by the way they feel in my mouth and the way they look on the page. So like Adelaide looks and sounds pleasing to me. I really like that name. Her dad's name is Jack, and to me that sounds strong and commanding. And then also Jackson makes a good thing for people to call him when they're mad or when they're being serious. Mm-hmm. And then Jane is one of the more important secondary characters. Her name kind of came from nowhere, but then I used that, and this is part of pantsing, but then I used that to take on more meaning throughout the book since she was an orphan. She's like Jane Doe.
Oh, gotcha. So it's I know we're going to talk about Easter eggs eventually, but it's almost like a typical forensics Easter egg too.
Yeah.
Whether that was intentional or accidental, it's really well done.
Right.
Cheryl says, zombies, yeah. I am excited to read this. And Ash said it's been fixing itself. It's all good. Good. So yeah, if you do exclamation B Perry in the chat, which I will do right now for everybody. But yeah, so Reclamation comes out 2 weeks from today.
Yay.
Which is fantastic, and you can go to bperrywrites.com as suggested right there in the chat, and you will be able to, of course, pre-order the book in both physical copy and ebook. Have you considered any audiobook for it?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I don't know when that's going to happen, because I definitely want to make sure that I get an actor who's experienced with audiobooks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is definitely something that's on my radar.
Awesome. Because I know that we actually do closed captions for the stream. As of right now, nobody's able to do closed captions for what you say because I couldn't. That doesn't work. But
that's too bad.
It'll be on the verbal and then it'll come up later. But I know that my fiance prefers audiobook, and we've talked about this book a lot. And I've mentioned we need to get it, and he's like, let me know when there's an audiobook. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right.
Right.
You prefer audio. So I'm gonna get the physical copy. Hopefully I can order myself a signed copy. If anybody in chat wants a signed copy, will you have them available?
I will have them available. I don't have that link yet.
Okay.
But they will be available on a friend's website.
Fantastic.
So I will put that, once I get that link, I'll put it on my on bperrywrites.com.
Fantastic. And hi, Bad Andy Writes. How are you tonight? We are interviewing author Bethany Perry, who is releasing a book exactly 2 weeks from today called Reclamation. The link has been posted in chat, bperrywrites.com. Bad Andy Writes is part of Rainbow Arcade and does his writing and editing on stream, which is terrifying for me to think of. Do you think you could ever do something like that?
Wow, no.
No, I couldn't. It takes some What are we, a mature stream? Right, it takes some giant balls to be able to do that, and I ain't got
Yes.
'em.
Yeah, huge cojones.
Yes, yeah, I was looking for that word, and I couldn't find it for the life of me. Thank you.
You're welcome. I live in Arizona. I'm kind of surrounded by. I speak a kind of a patois sometimes.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. So yes, lots of cojones, of course.
So yeah, it comes natural.
All right, so continuing on our discussion regarding Reclamation, of course, what was the hardest scene to write in this book without, of course, giving away too much?
Yeah. So the second pinch point, which basically means halfway between the midpoint and the third act, where it starts. I think that was the hardest for me to write. So Jack has to make this really big choice, and it's, he's trying to choose between personal safety or saving his friends. And of course, obviously there's pretty high stakes. It's like full of internal dialogue, and obviously I'm not a male at birth, so I really don't know what's going on in their heads. And so I like bugged all my male friends, and anybody that would listen really, or anybody that would read it, I wanted to make sure it sounded authentic.
Gotcha.
So yeah. Also, I was too scared to write sex this time, so you have that.
Too scared to write sex. Why is that? Is it because it's like
Book two.
Oh, you're saving that for book 2. Got it.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So no sex in this book, but forewarning, it's coming.
Yeah. Well, it might be implied in this book. I'm just saying.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's part of growing up in this country. We seem to be a lot more comfortable with violence than we are with sex.
Yeah.
And once I realized that was what made me scared to write it, I was like, well, no, I can't do that. It's perfectly natural. It's and it's enjoyable, and there's no reason why we should talk about beheading zombies and not having sex.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
You a little bit of violence, a little bit of romance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, and you're right. Like, it didn't dawn on me exactly until you said it. We are so much more comfortable with violence than we are sex. You see it so many times. Right. You see it so many times where there's, how many mass shootings has the U.S. had? Come on. And we see those and we're like, oh, okay. So Tuesday, we've only had one. Oh, okay. And then we have the woman who was selling nudes to raise money for Australia, and everybody's like, oh no, that is terrible.
Yeah, and she gets shut down, right?
Exactly.
Or the Super Bowl.
Yeah. How dare they be? Go ahead.
I just didn't. I let that. That mindset that I grew up with, and I think a lot of us do this. We go through life doing things we don't know why we do them, and I let that mindset kind of control me for a long time. So once I realized that was what I was doing, I wanted to stop that. But in the first book, I hadn't grown to that point yet.
Gotcha. So you've grown along with your characters in its own way, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite character?
Oh, that's so hard to say.
It's okay if you
in
don't.
This book?
In
book 1? Yes, Jane is 100% my favorite.
Gotcha. Okay.
I love her.
So now I just have to read between the lines and see if favoritism shows itself.
Probably.
We all have favorites, even though we're never going to tell our mind children that one of them is.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, with Reclamation, of course, how did publishing this book change your process of writing?
Well, like we mentioned before, I'm self-publishing, and so far I have completely loved the process of self-publishing. If I knew I was going to like it this much, I would have done it sooner. There's all the creative freedom that I hoped for, because I love this book with my whole heart, and I just wanted to be able to have that creative freedom. It's really encouraged me to take whatever chances I want on the page, because if it's something that, for some reason traditional publishing isn't comfortable with or whatever, I can self-publish and completely enjoy that process. So I think in a way it's made me freer to as a writer.
Gotcha. And what's been one or two of your, aside from, of course, the obvious where you have full control over that creative freedom piece, are there any other pieces, just for those who are listening who are writing, who maybe like me, who have always thought, oh God, I got to do traditional because that's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
What are a couple of the pieces that you may have been pleasantly surprised with in doing the self-publishing process?
It's very easy as far as like getting it uploaded and getting it distributed and stuff like that. That process has been a lot easier than I thought it was.
I'm surprised myself to hear you say that it's easy, because I don't know if it's been kind of like one of those media outlet things where they tell you it's bad so you don't do it. But for me, I've always suspected that self-publishing is infinitely more difficult than it, I guess, is.
Well, the marketing piece intimidates me.
Right.
I'm an introvert, and so talking on the phone like this is pretty okay. And also, we know each other.
Yeah.
So I feel all right. But like I went to a couple bookstores and a couple libraries last weekend and put myself out there for author events. And that kind of terrifies me a little bit.
How did those go?
Well, talking to people, it went wonderful. And I should be able to have some events in mid-March.
That's fantastic. I don't know if you shared that and I missed it, but that is so good.
But that kind of terrified me. So the whole marketing piece, I don't really know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if I'm doing as much as I could be doing. I'm probably not. But I think that this is something that I'm just going to pick up as I go along. And as I get a back catalog, I should be able to pick up more readers.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got, because I know a lot of people, it's kind of like binging a season on Netflix, right? Some people like to binge a season. Other people wait for everything to be released, and then they're like, okay, now I can commit.
Right.
So it might really turn into that too. And then also, I'm sure with once you get the audiobook piece into it as well, you'll be able to even further reach more people at the same time, which is awesome.
Yeah, and from what I understand with audiobooks, you can there's a whole group of actors that you can hire, and they do a royalty share. So I think that what I need to have are book sales, so I can go to the group and find someone who's willing to do a royalty share.
Nice, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm so excited to be able to hold like one of my friends' books. Like, for me, for a very long time, I'm like, you know what? My dream, I'm going to walk into a Barnes & Noble and I'm going to be right there. And I'm going to pick up the book. And this is the ridiculous part, but I would do it one day because this is me. I'm going to walk over and I want to start signing copies. And then some employee is going to come up to me like, sir, excuse me. You cannot deface those books. And then I'm going to turn around, go to the back cover where my face is and be like, it's actually my book. And then they're going to be like, oh! And that's the end of the dream. I don't know what happens after that, whether I get arrested or it goes well. But like, now thinking about holding a friend of mine's book is just like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Because I've seen your process, or I've heard about it at least. And I'm sure there's so much more I don't know or haven't heard about. But even getting to interview you, I'm learning so much more than I knew ahead of going into this as well. And I'm like, I get chills just thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to hold my friend's book. This is so exciting. And then I'm going to get a signed copy because obviously I have to. So that's going to be great as well. I'll have 2 copies and no one can tell me otherwise. So in this book, I know a lot of authors, we talked about the Jane Doe, like, forensic Easter egg, which may have been intentional, may not have been. But are there any intentional Easter egg type secrets that only a few people who know about them will understand are there?
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of Easter eggs. A lot of pop culture references. There's overt ones, like there's for example, one of the characters is named Dean, so I mean there's an overt supernatural reference. There's Star Trek references, there's Princess Bride, there's Pulp Fiction, and
Princess Bride.
Yeah, if somebody says "as you wish," I mean,
yes,
yes, so it's little stuff like that.
That's fantastic.
So it's definitely all over the place, random lines.
But it's really, really cool. Like, I mean, the Dean reference, if you follow her on Twitter, you're not surprised by this in any shape or form, of course. And you've actually met the actor, right?
Yes.
And I saw that photo with him. You look like you could probably cry and pee at the exact same time and still be okay with it.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a bit like staring into the sun.
Oh, you were starstruck. That's cute.
I was, and I have met a lot of musicians that I really respect, and I've never I've treated one of them like that, but I hardly ever treat any of them because they're just people, right?
Right.
You know, famous people are just people, so there's no need to treat them, differently. But I couldn't help it with them. I couldn't.
And Bad Andy says Jensen Ackles.
Yeah.
And you could hear it right there in her voice. Did you hear that? Oh. Yep. We are talking about Jensen Ackles.
Yeah.
Hi, ML Rascon.
I hear that he buys special cologne for the cons so that he smells nice for us. And oh wow, I mean,
Was it
he
good?
Smells like heaven.
Oh, it was
Oh
good.
my goodness, it's like $300 cologne. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
Yeah.
You ever want to meet someone so you know what they smell like?
Man.
Bad Andy says I would have his babies. I'm sure there's a few of us who would.
Yeah.
Yep. You're in good company. You're in good company, Andy,
Right.
I promise. So we've got some Easter eggs. We have some fun forensics additions. We've got a lot of good research that's gone into the book, of course. But all in all, what made you want to write this book?
I love zombies. That's it. I've loved zombies since I was 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, I watched Night of the Living Dead and seen zombies ever since.
That could have gone two ways.
It could have. I am terrified of zombies.
What?
I'm terrified. Like, when I used to watch Walking Dead regularly, I used to hate when it was going to come back because I was so excited. But every time the premiere I'd watch the premiere, and then that night I'd have nightmares. Every single time.
Oh my gosh. Ash, I didn't breathe when I hugged him. I'm so upset. Oh no!
Oh no. No, Ash, no.
There's a little bit of a delay, so if some of the chat stuff comes up a little after, that's why, because I think my frame rates, they're still fixing.
Okay.
But, Ash, you should have inhaled. Next time, we'll all go.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a circle around him and just... And then we'll remember forever. I'm never gonna wash this nose hair again. Like, I don't even know what to do with that. That's how we're gonna rock it, right? So, zombies. You're terrified of them, but you wrote about them.
Yes, because I love them so much because they scare me.
Okay.
Horror is my favorite genre. I love to be scared. But after a while, you're watching all these zombie movies and stuff, and reading these zombie books, and it's the beginning of the apocalypse. We all know how that goes, right? Mm-hmm. There's screaming, people die, there's fighting, there's screaming, So I kind of wanted to see what happened after that, like what happened to the kids who grew up in a zombie-infested world. That's all they knew. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see what happened once the disease was cured. Like, would people still be able to be kind? Would we all be ruthless killers? What kind of society would be born from 20 years in a hopeless apocalypse?
Nice. So most of the zombie tropes, which is why a lot of trad publishers won't take those books, is because it's overdone. And I don't want to say that in a bad way.
Yeah.
If you want to write zombies, whether it's
Absolutely.
pre or post apocalypse. But when it really comes down to it, that's what's got me hooked on the book before I even get to read anything but your short synopsis, is because it's the after effects. Like, the cures happened, everything's good, but everything's not always good.
Yeah.
I was just
killed
gonna
like 90% of the population.
It killed 90%?
Yeah, so
Wow.
there's still a lot of zombies,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But, everybody's trying to put it back together, and now they have these cures, so if you get bitten, you don't have to turn.
Okay, so your zombies are irreversible with a cure. You don't have to answer that.
Yeah. Well, there's a window. You can get bitten and still be cured, but it has to be done within this window.
Ah, okay. That makes perfect sense. So once you're a zombie, that's it.
Yeah, once that window is passed, there's no coming back.
Perfect. Andy wants to know, ask her if she saw or read The Girl with All the Gifts.
Not yet. People have told me I need to, and I have not.
Well, it sounds like
It's
you're
on
going to
my
have
list.
to get on that. Like, put that to the top of
know.
the list.
Definitely on my
Although
list.
you are moving, so you got to have some extra time, I'm sure. But aside from that, like, get on that.
Yeah.
So, as you know, my space is very LGBTQIA plus centered. All of my branding, all of my the merch that I have with the logos, my stream graphics, even down to my emotes on the stream, are all centered around creating a very inclusive space for everyone and anyone. And
Yeah.
you know, being part of my space is being part of, you know, that inclusions part. So I want to know, as an LGBTQIA reader, streamer, writer, however you want to swing it, and the audience that we're promoting this to today being part of that same community, what can we look forward to as the series progresses in relation to inclusion?
Well, basically in book one, Addie's kind of sheltered. Like her world is really closed in, and most of what she knows is restricted to like her immediate friends, or her immediate family and her close friends. As the series goes on, her world is like literally opened up, and she starts to experience a more wide range of people and lifestyles. By the time we get to book three, there's a really large cast of characters. There's a lot of LGBTQIA representation sprinkled throughout. One of my favorite moments in book three, a little spoiler, but it comes when one of the actors that she's made friends with proposes to his boyfriend on stage in front of a packed house.
Oh,
Like, I cry every time I read that scene.
I'm emotional and I don't know much. Oh my god.
Yeah. So you really kind of get to watch Addie learn what the world can really offer, and you kind of take this journey of growth and discovery with her.
Oh, that's so awesome. So we don't really get to see it yet because, of course, the book is a journey of growth, as we've talked about. But as long as you stick around for the series, you will find the representation you're looking for as best as you can.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry, little water break.
Yeah, no worries.
It's so dry in here. So I have the lizard tank to the left of me, which to everybody else I think is the right. Anyways, and it is at, what are you at today, kid? We are at 85 degrees, and I'm like right next to it. So it gets so dry in here. And then it was, well, everyone saw it was -0 last night because apparently that's a new temperature.
-0.
This morning it was -3. It got up to 27 degrees by the time it got to the hottest, and then I think it was 24 when we got home.
I'm not a winter person.
If you want, I mean, I'll take the warmth if you want to trade just for a day. But you got to take like the -18 degree temperatures we'll get sometimes.
That's going to be a big no.
It's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. I'm hoping to be in California in September, so I'll get to enjoy that.
Yeah, that'd be
Ash,
nice and warm.
please clip I'm emotional and I don't know much. What a mood. Yep, that is a mood. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll talk some personal interests. We're actually almost at about the close of the interview. So if anyone has any questions on what we've gone over that we can expand upon, within the next, I'm going to say probably 5 to 10 minutes is your opportunity to put them in the chat. I will catalog them and we will get to them. But we have about 4-ish questions, unless I come up with something random like I've been doing all along. So just a heads up to everybody who's in chat if you are interested in asking something. So what is your favorite underappreciated novel out there?
I think Hocus Pocus. It's the first Vonnegut novel that I ever read. And if I'm being honest, I like it more than Cat's Cradle. But maybe that's just because I like odd stories. I don't know.
I mean, you are kind of writing the oddity portion of your genre, so that's not really surprising. Like post-apocalyptic science fiction, and then, but all of a sudden it's like, after.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that my series is a little more hopeful than what we kind of expect from the genre. Because I like, if anything else, I like to be different. So.
Absolutely, it's what helps really define us as people when it comes down to it. Just that differences that we all have.
Yeah.
Of course. How long on average would you say it takes you to write a book?
3 to 4 months once I get going.
Wow.
I only really write at night after the kids go to bed. So I generally get about 1,000 words per session, give or take.
Wow. That is
depending on how long the book is. Yeah.
Do you know how many words Reclamation ended up being thereabouts?
The draft that I published is about 107,000.
Nice.
So it's a little over 400 pages.
That's
412 pages.
That's a good chunk.
Yeah, well, it was 120 when I finished the first draft.
Ooh, you shaved 8 pages off. Gasp.
No, it was 120,000 words, so I probably shaved about 100.
Oh, I heard that is 420, like page count. So
Oh,
120,000 to 100 and did you say 7?
Yeah.
Wow. 13,000 words. That's a lot more than just a couple of pages here and there. Damn.
A lot more than I thought I was going to take off.
So you're an overwriter versus an underwriter typically, or was this like the first time you overwrote?
Oh, no, I'm an overwriter for sure.
Okay. I'm the opposite. So we're both planters, but you overwrite, I underwrite.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just spit everything out, and then I go back and clean up, like things that didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, Andy. He said 1,000 words is about 5 pages. So, yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it just depends on how long the book is. And it also depends on, like, that's not the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the whole process is about, 4 or 5 months, maybe 6, because I've got to create characters. And that's about the only plotting I do is their character arcs. So, I want to know where they start and where they end.
Gotcha.
So I've got to do that, kind of get to know them and where the world is. Once I start really writing, that takes me about 3 months.
Awesome. So I normally wouldn't divert off to a chat question, but you mentioned the characters. So Ash has asked, cast Addie, Jane, and Jack.
Okay, well, I can't cast Addie. I have tried and tried and tried.
Okay.
I really have no idea. Jane is kind of, she's a little bit Ruth Connell
Okay.
and a little bit herself. Ruth plays Rowena on Supernatural.
Gotcha.
And Jack is, he kind of started out as Andrew Lincoln. Of course, he kind of became himself later. But if I were to cast them in a movie,
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know who I would cast as Addie or Jane because I don't know. I have a hard time picking younger actors. I would want somebody that's like younger and up and coming.
Gotcha.
But to be perfectly honest, I think that Jensen could kill the role of Jack.
Why am I not surprised?
I know, right? Killed everything.
He's killed everything, and we will let him have the honor of killing this role too.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, the dreamy sigh. We got it again. 2 times in one night. Actually, it's 3 times because we talked about the cologne, the meeting, and then the I see where we're going here.
Yep.
All right. We'll jump back up. So, what's an early experience where you learned that language had power?
Well, my dad was a poet. I also write poetry, so I kind of got that from him. I was 12 when he passed away, and I became the owner of all his writings. So I was going through all the stuff that he had written, and I discovered a poem that he had written about me, and it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard, and it kind of, really made his passing hit, like nothing else really had. I think we all go into a little bit of denial, especially being young like that.
Yeah.
So I already knew that words were important, but that was really a hell of an experience. And then also when I read Pet Sematary at the age of 13, I really suddenly understood why you can't just put down a scary book. I was always like, why can't you just stop reading if it's scary?
Right? 3 in the morning. I really need
going.
to sleep. Why am I still doing this?
Right. Especially when you get to a really scary part, I think, in a horror novel, you just have to keep going so that you can go through what's scaring you and see yourself out to the other side.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of like with you writing zombies, but being terrified of zombies.
Yes.
You're seeing yourself out. You are actually literally seeing yourself out on the actual other side.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so we share that in our dads being writers. I actually think that, even though my dad's passed, I can probably go on Amazon and find his book still somewhere. I have no idea. I haven't looked. I haven't paid attention. But I also ended up becoming the owner of all of his writing. So when I was checking over kind of our questions for tonight, it reminded me of that. I found a poem about my mom that my mom didn't know that he wrote. And it was when he was in between women later on, because I have 7 younger siblings, but 3 of them are my mom's, to give you an idea of my dad.
Okay, yeah.
So when he was in between women, he wrote this about how, like, about letting go and how that wasn't the best choice or whatever. And I had always held a lot of resentment because I was like, do you even know what you did when you left? And then I found that poem and I was like, holy shit. Like,
apparently the answer was yes.
The answer was absolutely yes. And like that, I mean, I found out more, as I got older, of course, but still, like, holy crap. Like, you're right. Like, when it comes, especially when it's someone who's close to you, no matter how close or not close you may have been with your dad, or myself with my dad as well, like, those words really, really, like, they cut deep.
Yeah. And I just published a poetry chapbook last year, and I included a lot of his poems in it because his dream was always to be published. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
and
sweet.
I have all of his rejection letters. But he never got published, so I wanted to make sure that he did.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad I'm not wearing makeup. Damn. That's so sweet. I didn't know that. That is awesome. Is your, thank you, Microsoft, for that gigantic ding. Your poetry book, is that on your website?
You know what? I don't think it is. I should put it on there, huh?
You probably should. Once you get it on your website, let me know.
I will. If you search me on Amazon, I have an author page and it's on there.
Well.
So I think that there's a link to my author page on my website.
I'm already on Amazon. Is it Perry Poems?
Yeah.
Okay, I am gonna go ahead. That touches my core. You have no idea. Like, I'm gonna cry. I need to, like, not. I'm gonna post a link in chat right now to Perry Poems. And you can also click on Bethany's name right there. And you will be able to find the author page on Amazon. Are those pictures of your dad on the front cover?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Oh, that is such a sweet cover.
Thank you. You know who did it.
Of course I know who did it. Thank you so much, Jay.
Right.
Jay did that so much wonderful justice.
He did.
Oh, I love that. Oh, and the back cover is gorgeous. So if you all, of course, as I've talked about Jay numerous times over the past month or more, Jay is the one who did the logos, the stream backgrounds, there's so much. And the cover and back cover of that book was done by Jay, and I believe Reclamation too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He'll be doing all of those.
That's how I feel. I'm like, if I self-publish, I'm hiring you. He's done, like, he did your logo too, right?
Yes, he did.
Yes. So when we get into our shiny hunt, I'll show you in just a second. There it is right there. Sorry for the game sounds real quick, everyone. But the logo that is over there is also done by Jay. If you are ever looking for some awesome graphic work, we can give a quick plug to Jay, of course. But completely. Jay does great work.
His work is worth its weight in gold.
You will never, I don't want to say never, but you won't find somebody who is as accomplished and skilled, but worth every penny, I feel, as I've ever found for Jay. And then some.
Actually, and more.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I can't recommend highly enough, if somebody's going to self-publish, to hire a graphic designer to do the cover.
Yes, please do. Please do. Please do. I have seen we have all seen some train wrecks. And while I understand that the story beneath the cover is probably fantastic, and you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, people are going to do that.
And I can't tell you how many people have come up to me after seeing the cover for my book and saying, I want to read it just because I saw that cover.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
Why is this? Oh, because it's not enabled. I'm an idiot tonight, apparently. Let's try this again. I was going to plug Jay. So yeah, as I just mentioned, of course, channel backgrounds, logos, headers, sub badges, and more were done by the fantastic Jay and Steger. You can find them on Twitter at that link down below. That is also going to be where you can find the fantastic graphic designer who did the cover of Reclamation. The banner that you have on your Twitter, was that also Jay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, right up there as I'm pointing to it, because I'm getting things right tonight, that banner, also done by Jay. I personally can't recommend them enough either. I've gotten I actually hired him to do a logo for my drag friends, and it's just such a simplistic but, like, super impactful thing. So...
Right. And that's one of the things that I really love about his design is it's so clean. Like everything that he does is just such a clean design, and it communicates exactly what it is in a beautiful way.
Yeah, exactly. Andy just said there's a reason the phrase exists. People absolutely judge books by their cover. And that is, it's so true. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, like, oops, I'm going to knock my mic all night, guys. But at the same time, like, that's your first impression. First impressions are done within the first anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Seconds. That's what we're talking tonight. All right. But first 30 to 60 seconds of meeting somebody. So when you have an interview with someone, if you trip and fall in the first 30 seconds, it's the first thing that people are going to remember. If you fumble over your words, but then you save yourself, the first 30 seconds to 60 seconds are what matter. So when someone picks up a book, the first thing they see before they even get to the back cover is going to be that cover. So before they even read the synopsis. So you've already, if you don't have them in that 30 to 60 seconds of the walk to the book, pulling out the book and looking at the cover, it's not going to grasp.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I know that it's an expense. I know that it's not cheap. You know, and self-publishing, there's certain things you have to pay for. An editor, I think my editor might be listening. You know, you absolutely need to hire an editor, in my opinion, and you definitely need to hire a graphic artist, and just save until you have that money, because if you don't take the care to invest in your book like that, people are going to think, what's in those pages? You know, you didn't invest in your cover. How do I know you invested in the words for the story?
And I'll pull up something that was writing community discourse about 6 months ago, but don't take out a second mortgage to pay for an editor. All I'm going to say on that topic. Save up until you can do it. Don't put yourself out just to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't have to publish it right now, because I can tell you that from the decision to self-publish and knowing that I had the funds to do so, to holding the book in my hand was only about...
You cut out. Was only about...
6 months.
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, you can wait until you have the funds, because it's not going to take long after you do to get that book in your hand.
And you bought a house in the process. Look at you go.
Right.
ML Rascon says, I am with hard eyes.
Yeah, that's my editor, Michelle.
Hi.
I love her.
So huge shout out to ML Rascon for being the editor of Reclamation. We got almost
She's fantastic.
We've got your writer friends in here. We got your beta reader here. We got your editor here. We've almost got the whole family. Look at us go. All right. And let's see here. I think we are down to our last question. So, my favorite topic, I don't think people talk about this often enough, but I love to know your opinion on this. Do you believe in writer's block?
No.
Okay.
I do believe that some things can make it hard to write, like you know, taking time off when you're under the weight of anxiety or stress or depression, you know, stuff like that. I think those things can make it hard to write, and taking time off is a good thing. But I don't believe you're in actually being blocked. When I sit down to write and I feel like I have writer's block, it probably means that I'm just not writing the right thing, or that I need to take a step back and come at it from a different angle.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense. I've felt like I've been in a block for a bit, but of course, I also don't necessarily believe in a writer's block. I just don't feel like it's the right time for me in a headspace to do it, with, you know, juggling streaming and then doing all the, like, the video editing and whatnot I do for streaming, and then at the same time, learning how to balance the social media presence, the 40-hour-a-week job, the relationship, like all of that. It's a lot to deal with, and you're moving to add on top of that, right? So
Yeah, and we have 2 kids and a fiance and dogs and the job and yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you've got to juggle so much at the same time. But I found I'm just not kind of focusing on the right thing. So I have to ask then, did you find yourself skipping ahead so you could write something that was better for you in the moment? Or did you stick at like a straight line of writing?
I definitely write linear.
Okay.
I think there's probably maybe less than half a dozen scenes that I skipped ahead and wrote, just because they were like killing me to write. And they changed by the time I got to them, but I wanted to get those ideas on paper. But I definitely write linear. So what happens when I say, like, if I feel like I'm blocked, if I feel like I can't write, I sit down to write and I'm writing and I'm like, this just sucks and I don't like any of it. It probably means that I'm coming at the scene from the wrong direction. So either I don't need that scene, or I'm not listening to the characters, or I'm doing the scene wrong. And so I just need to delete it and start over.
Gotcha. No, again, it makes total sense, of course. And so I'm very linear. I don't feel like I could just like tackle a mid scene or an end scene and like feel better about where I am, mostly because the characters are writing the scenes for me anyways.
Right.
So
exactly.
If I jump ahead, I've completely missed all of the fun stuff they're about to tell me, and then it's going to mess up what I try to do. And then of course, once you get to that scene, they're laughing at you in the back of the head, and you're just like, okay,
Right.
I get it, kids. We got this. Let's move on.
And since I don't plot, like, I don't know what's going to happen, how am I going to write that?
Right, yeah. I've got, like, I had this beginning, and I was like, okay, I know how this is going to go, and then all of a sudden a prologue happened, and I was like, okay, fuck me then. And then I was like, okay, I have an ending, and it's going to be 1 book, and then they were like, I was like, okay, it's a trilogy now. So now my ending is 3 books later, but not, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna let you do it, and then it just flowed so much better. So it's really nice to hear the different processes of other writers, of course, because again, we are all different.
We are.
So like you and I are both planters. We both write linear, but we both have different ways that we go ahead and tackle it, which is really great.
And this story was always a trilogy. And a kind of it's loosely the hero's journey. And
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, I took a lot of cues from Star Wars, to be honest.
Ooh.
About plot beats and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of took the hero's journey, split it into 3 parts, and said, this is Daddy's character arc.
Nice.
So I adjusted it. There's some pieces of the heroine's journey in there. I don't know that they really need to be separate, but there is some of connecting with your feminine side and integrating those things into it. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've given us so much awesome detail. I really, really, really appreciate the fact that you popped by tonight and we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes thereabouts now.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long. Well, that's fine. It's perfectly okay. I don't have tonight's supposed to be like shiny hunting, but at the same time doing this interview, I'm not going to set a time limit and make us constrained to that. It wouldn't feel natural that way. So I'm going to, again, post the link for, excuse me, I'm sorry, for the pre-order right there in the chat box, of course. So you can go and order your own ebook copy. You can get physical copies. And then as soon as I know where to find signed copy location link, I'm going to need to know. I will
let you know.
Perfect. I will absolutely retweet it on Twitter, and then I'll probably do a command for like, I don't know, exclamation Perry signed or something. So as soon as that command goes live, I'll let everybody know. The link will be around. I will also post in, the Discord, because we also have that as our option as well. And then we'll kind of take it away from there. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about your book before we go ahead and end off the interview?
I don't think so. I love this book. I love this series. I love these characters with everything that I possibly could. I love all of it. So.
And from, of course.
I hope that.
Go ahead.
I hope that everybody else loves them at least as much as I do.
You were gonna say you said what exactly I was thinking of saying.
So, and I really appreciate you having me.
It was
It's been
my
really
absolute
fun.
pleasure, and I didn't tell everybody this, but I'm gonna now. This was Bethany's first interview about the book, so you
Yes.
got an exclusive sneak peek at Reclamation before anybody else did, aside from what might have been on social media. So I hope everybody enjoyed the segment tonight. I have other interviews that are going to be coming, but of course I want to send a huge special thank you to Beth for taking her time out tonight, sitting down with all of us, even answering a couple of community questions.